21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Right now, we're highly dependent on outsourcing our food. We're getting wheat from Ukraine. Look at the price of wheat right now because Ukraine situation. We're getting lentils from Africa. We're getting rice from China. We're getting beans from Mexico. We're outsourcing our food to the cheapest hourly wage. And if we cannot have local food systems as we go more and more towards AI, there's more and more opportunity for there to be a disruption in our food system. And we need to be importers. Like, we're exporting much of what we're growing, and we're importing instead of having a diversity of food in our own countries to feed ourselves. This is a national security issue because the United States, for example, is importing more food than it is growing, including what it's exporting and importing. So we are a net importer of food. And if the supply chain gets messed up, then we starve. So I think that that's kind of a big, and regenerative agriculture, I think, is the path forward, also to be resilient, to use the local, not getting fertilizer from Ukraine and getting this, like, that we use what we have locally and we grow food locally. I'm most well known for being a vegan chef turned cattle rancher. And this is something that most people don't go through, this transformation. I had large scale vegan restaurants, 5 locations, doing $7 million per year per location. And I had this belief that I was doing what was right for the planet, what was right for the green movement. And I thought in a didactic way that I knew the path forward, and I was being blessed financially in what I was doing. And in 2013, I listened to a TED Talk with Graham Sate. And in a couple of minutes, I realized that carbon is not the problem. We are all carbon. Imagine the psyop that they have convinced us that the very fundamental matter that all of life is made out of is somehow a problem. And we are causing this thing that's happening, climate change. No, we actually are the keystone species on the planet. And in a moment, I realized that our job is actually to tend to the garden, is to work with nature and not try to out-science her, not try to sustain. We don't want to sustain anything. We want to regenerate. And that made so much sense to me. And I went from being an environmentalist that was a vegan and a very successful restaurateur to someone that was like, wait, is my life actually making a difference? And through the next several years, I began farming, and then the pandemic hit, and I knew I wanted to go into farming, but I also knew I owned a vegan restaurant. So why would that be counterintuitive to my business? And I was selling my business for $25 million. And you know, when you do a big deal like this, it was 25 to 31 million, and I had to hit specific sales goals for 3 quarters in a row, which is common in a big deal like this, because they want to make sure the business is actually doing what you're showing it's doing on paper in real time. So Q4 of 2019, I crush it. We're out of the box. It's looking closer to that 31 million. We're celebrating. It's Christmas time. I got my kids. I'm pregnant. I just had a baby. Everything looks like excellent. I'm going to be able to be home, stay-at-home mom in just a few months. And then Q1 of 2020, best quarter my businesses have ever had. It looks like it's good. Some of the stores would do $9 million that year. I'd never done more than 7 million in a store. So, I mean, we're just over the moon. I'm like this close to retiring. Yes, I'm still gonna have to do intellectual property stuff and menu stuff. But I mean, from being 7 days a week in the restaurant, I'm about to be partially retired. This is so exciting. And then they announced, like, oh, we're closing down all restaurants. So Q2 was the best quarter we have. Q1 was the best quarter we ever. Q2, done. And so I just pivot through COVID, and I got 350 employees, and I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to research and the news is saying weird things that Trump is saying, and I'm trying to read the transcripts. I have employees reading the transcripts of what the White House is actually saying, and it all just seems insane to me. Totally insane. And they closed us down for 2.5 years. And that obviously all the equity. There was no private equity money going into restaurants for the entirety of the pandemic. I lost that deal. I lost multiple restaurants during that time. In Earth Day, just almost exactly a year ago, I decided to try to change my last two restaurants to regenerative. So I've been limping along, pivoting 1,000 different pivots. We could tell you I did food boxes, I did vegetable box delivery, I did pre-made meals, and all the things during the pandemic to try to pivot through it with little success. And I had two restaurants still standing, and I thought maybe this concept no longer has integrity. I believe in regenerative agriculture. I don't believe in seed oils. I believe that meat is nutrient dense food, that dairy is really positive food. And so I decided to do something that had never been done before. The first regenerative restaurant, all regenerative. I created the supply chains. I had to buy direct from the farmers. I had to get storage, cold storage, like, because these supply chains don't exist. And I said, this is what people want right now. People want to eat meat and dairy, but they want to do it ethically. They want to make a difference. They want to build soil. They want to have a positive relationship. And I I guess, estimated the anger of the vegans. And so it went completely crazy. I mean, Fox News, Yahoo News, full pages in the New York Post. I mean, in the physical New York Post, like, sure, of course, there's digital articles about everything, but like full page in the physical newspaper, it's crazy. And the vegans got me closed over and over, like saying that they would say on Yelp and Google, because this is all crowd searched, it's crowds, I don't know, the information is crowdsourced. And so because of that, it would say permanently closed. And then when a customer looks and it says permanently closed, and I've already closed 3 restaurants in the last 2 years, they are going to believe you. And so the truth is, and this is an entrepreneur podcast, so on one way, I'm telling you my failures. And on the other way, every entrepreneur knows they've had these times where we've made a bad calculation. And so I didn't calculate how badly the vegans would try to put me out of business. And I just didn't have the runway. We had already lost 3 restaurants, and we went to a higher cost of goods. And I thought that the sales would at least sustain the same, but they did not. And so in January 5th, we decided to close our last 2 stores, and decided would be a generous term. Like, I literally just wasn't able to make payroll probably in the next 2 weeks. I had to sell Bitcoin and God knows what else to pay that final pay. And there's nothing worse than cashing out $200,000 of your retirement to pay final paychecks on a business that's never going to monetize. And that is how we got to today. But in that time, I also was building this project in Texas, which is a regenerative ranch where we grow pork, beef, lamb, and goat. And we have greenhouses and gardens, and we have a restaurant. We have 40 beds of hospitality. And so this project is really the evolution of what I was doing in California, where I had the farm, I was growing the food, and I had these restaurants. Now the customer comes to the farm, and there's no way for them to not get the impact of regenerative agriculture. When you come here, yesterday was Easter, people came and they're looking at these beautiful green fields with these cows grazing in them. They're having a patty melt with this A2 cheese and with homemade sourdough bread, with indigenous yeast that we collected from the juniper trees. There's no way to not get our connectedness to nature, where we belong. And so my business is not just about making money. Of course, I need to feed my family, but there's much easier ways than farming and restaurants to make a living. I know that. This is a way to reconnect people to their own souls and our own place in this earth, because the psyop of right now has convinced us that we don't belong here, and we do belong here. And that is what I want people to understand. So in my life, I've actually made and lost everything more than once. And the kind of crashes that could destroy most people. I was in the music industry and had music recording studios and very popular. And then the downloading and Pro Tools came out and the music industry collapsed upon itself. And then I was a poet and I was on HBO Def Poetry and I toured with big groups and everything. And then I was featured in this documentary, and it was a very poor version of me, which they can do with reality television. And it really, I was young and it really hurt me. And I just left the whole poetry scene, even though I was very successful and getting paid like $2,500 to perform poetry at the time was very good. And then I went into growing marijuana, and I was at the beginning of when it was legal in California. And I very much monetized that and bought real estate and did other things with that money. And then the marijuana industry, when it became really more legal, and the 2008 collapse of the real estate market, those two things, I was over leveraged in that real estate market, and everybody was over leveraged. So everybody started to try to grow marijuana. It was like, I knew judges, I knew like grocery store moms that worked at checkout. Like everybody was trying to hold on to a house that they couldn't afford because they were over leveraged. And so everybody was growing pot in their garage, in their backyard, in their whatever. And so it totally crashed. And what used to be worth $6,000 was not even worth, it went from 6,000 to 1,400 to 300, and there was just no way to grow it anymore for that. And I kind of crumbled out of that, and then I came into the vegan ice cream movement, restaurant, and that went into the vegan restaurants. And so I have made and lost a multitude of times in my life. And the thing that keeps me going is a profound self-awareness. And the thing that we have to know is that I am Mollie, and my value has nothing to do with how much money is in the bank. I have opened my bank account app and seen millions, and I have opened my bank account app and seen negative $7,000, and I don't know how I'm going to scramble to cover it. But who I am, a wife, a mother, a daughter, a child of God, wanting to do the best on this planet, that doesn't change. And I learned this lesson very young. I remember when the recording studio was crashing, and was going to have to sell my house, and it was my first. I was so successful at 22 years old with the recording studio, and then by 23, 24, and I saw so many famous people that were my friends or whatever were just disappeared when I didn't have all the stuff, right? And I was sitting at a table on Ventura Boulevard having breakfast at a little breakfast spot with my brother and another friend I went to high school with, and we were laughing about something. And I remember saying in that moment, we have no money. We don't know what we're going to do. We have to sell our house. We're going to split this sandwich, this baguette, and we're splitting a lemonade and a baguette between a sandwich between the three of us. But there's nowhere I'd rather be. There's not people I'd rather be with. And we love each other and we're laughing and we're having joy. And that is what matters. And I also believe working with people that you love. When you work 7 days a week, when your whole life is work, if you are not working with people that you love and you want to go to work with, I built my business, my restaurants with my best friend. She's passed away, but we spent every day together and we talk on the phone driving home. So my two things is you have to know your self-worth is not connected to your money. And you have to know that you have those people that believe in you even when you're down. You have to know that there's people that will believe in you, and those are the people you surround yourself with. And every one of us entrepreneurs will have fair weather friends, people that you think are ride or die. And as soon as it becomes the ride or die time, I mean the die time and not the ride time, they are going to be gone. And that is it will hurt you. But you cannot put your worth on your bank account and on those people. I have the most extraordinary community around me that has supported me through the ups and downs. And that is what is important. And also, God's delays are never God's denials. And we want to know when we'll have more money. We want to know. And very recently, I was crying in the shower, like, God, I feel that I'm doing everything that you're asking of me. And it's so hard right now. And I'm 47, almost 47 years old. I thought I was past this level of struggle in my life. And I heard on my heart, you don't need to know where the next check is coming from. You just have to trust that it's coming. And so I believe that radical faith in whatever you have faith in, community that you love and trust that have been there through the good and the bad times, and self love, self knowing your own self, that your worth is not the car you drive, is not the house you have, is not what's in your bank account, but that you innately know that you are extraordinary and unique and abundant just the way you are and just the way you're not, is what has gotten me through all of these ups and all of these downs. And I'm in a down right now, but I've always made it back to an up. So I believe that I will get there again. I don't know if I have a nurture aspect, to be honest, and this may be a downfall of mine, like that I don't take good care of myself. But I believe in our society, we are putting so much attention on the I that I maybe have resisted or swung in the other direction. And that could be a downfall of mine. But I feel there's so much self-care. There's so much, and a lot of times self-care seems to me as an excuse to not do what needs to be done. And so I am someone that is 100% a slave to my word. If I give my word to something, then I'm 100% going to do that thing at all costs. And then if not, I'm going to communicate at the soonest time that I cannot do that thing. And so sometimes I feel like people say, oh, I was going to do this. I said I was going to do this, but I need to take care of myself. And on some levels, I understand that. But on other levels, we have to be able to push through. And maybe that is my greatest strength and my greatest weakness at the same time, is that I just have this ability to just push and push and push. But thank the Lord, I was evenly yoked with a husband who needs to take breaks. Like, he does not have that. So he will say, like, today's Monday, we just worked all weekend, the restaurant is open. Now, is he not going to work at all? No, he's for sure. He's butchering 3 pigs right now as we speak, but he's going to take time. He's going to force me to take time to be with the kids and just be a family together. And he's going to go, let's go to the chiropractor. Let's do this. So thank the Lord, I have a husband who has a line. I'm done with what we're done right now. We're going to take a break, because that is not my strength. Self-care and self-nurture is not my strength. But what gives me strength and feeds me is seeing my ideas take on shape, form, and experience. And that is my strength. Like, if you will come to this ranch right now, people are here right now, and they said, "How long have you been here?" And I said, "A year and a half, and we've owned it for 2.5 years." And they say, "It looks like you've been here 13 years. You have done so much." And that is my strength. And I love, nothing feeds me more than watching ideas form into reality, into the brick and mortar, the real life. I love that. We're building a venue on the stage, a stage venue on the field right now. It's going to be beautiful for music, for weddings, for whatever. Watching that grow up. We're building a rock garden with a heart sculpture and a cross and all this. It's watching that come out of nothing. And that sounds like a strange thing to feed me, but that really feeds me. I love that. I love being part of creation. And that's why I love farming. I love planting a seed and then having it come up and feed my family, or helping birth an animal and then raising that animal for 2.5 years and then nurture my community. I love being part of that, part of creation. We're only meant to be here to learn. And so those of us who have figured it out, in quotation marks, are we really living life the way we're meant to do it? Did our soul come here with an idea of what it wanted to learn? And are we continuing to learn those lessons that our soul is striving to learn? I am not afraid to tell the truth, and I am not afraid to change my mind, and I am not afraid to do different things. Maybe that's not even true. I am afraid, but that fear doesn't stop me from taking the next step, because what's going to happen? What is the worst that can happen? You lose everything and then you try again. But does that mean that I am less of a mother, less of a wife, less of a human being, less of a child of God? No. And so we cannot be afraid. Well, no, we are always going to be afraid, and we must not let that fear ever stop us from taking the next step. And I see so many potential entrepreneurs in the world, and they are 100% in their head. And do you know, they never ever get past the idea. So many great ideas die in the details that will get worked out over time. But if you think you can work all these details in your head and on your laptop without actually doing it in the world, you cannot. You will plan and plan and plan forever, and you will never make it happen. So I am not a planner. I am a jump off the cliff and figure out how to fly on the way down. And for good, bad, or ugly, I believe that being in action is the most powerful way to be in this world. And for sure, we can assess, but how much losing of living are we doing assessing what it might be like to live that life? I will rather just live that life, fail or succeed. I want to invite people, if they're interested about anything that I'm saying, if they're interested about regenerative agriculture, about being closer to nature, about even the microbiology in the soil and how it's connected to our gut and our health and our mental health. If you're interested about any of these things and you have a business, you could come and do a corporate retreat here on the ranch. We have 40 beds, and we have a company that comes in and will glamp out as many bell tents. If you have 100 people, we do chiropractors, doctors' offices, we do men's retreats, yoga retreats, but we also just do corporate retreats where they want to do team building or get people out of the cubicle and into nature and eat this delicious food at the restaurant on the ranch, stay in these tiny houses, go out into the greenhouse, eat food right from the plant, refresh your mind and your microbiology. It's a great place to do corporate retreats. And so I want to invite people, and if that doesn't resonate with you or that doesn't work for your business model, just come with your family, come for a weekend, eat at the restaurant, play with the animals, hold a baby goat, plant some food, milk a cow into your coffee. Any of these things are available. And I'm telling you, we just had a tech company from Houston come out And people were so inspired, moved to tears, just to be remembering the most basic parts of being human that we have lost living in boxes in cities, staring at blue lights all day, every day. And so I want to invite you to come to Sovereignty Ranch. And if you can't make it, then you can go to our website, and we sell meat. We sell all types of products in the store, medicinal products, tallow face balm. You can get a meat box. You can get sourdough bread, all types of stuff. Me and my husband are extraordinary chefs. That's what we've done our whole life. And so there's so many ways that you can support what I'm doing. And you can find me on Instagram, Talk to Mollie, Sovereignty Ranch, or Eat at the Barn. Those are our handles. And you can also go to our website, sovereigntyranch.com, and just really dive into what we're doing and dive into your humanness and where we belong as the keystone species on the planet.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.